Now, how big is $1 trillion? I mean, it's hard to fathom $1 billion, much less $1 trillion. It's hard to imagine it.
I want to deliver this message today. We face an economic crisis of historic proportion. We're broke. America's broke.
Failed. Bullshit.
Wake up, America.
President Bush inherited a projected 10-year budget surplus.
92,000 reasons to end the war. Wake up, America.
I inherited this fix in the first place.
$787 billion.
$30 million for mice. Does that create jobs?
Why are you pushing a stimulus package?
It will save or create more than 3.5 million jobs.
Unemployment has risen.
People are losing their jobs, their homes. Middle class is falling apart.
We can tell Americans, force Americans, by health insurance, or we're going to fine you, send you to jail.
If you believe this is a bad idea to provide health care, then vote no!
We'll reduce our deficit by more than $100 billion over the next decade.
Spending does not reduce spending.
We didn't think that we were going to cover 30 million people for
Why
free.
are you out there spending this money?
We have to pass the bill.
To the Gates Club over the Fed fence is too high.
Greece, Italy, Spain, Portugal.
Well, we're out of money now.
How can we solve the world's problems? We can't solve our own problems here at home.
America is an idea.
We know a debt crisis is coming. We know interest compounds viciously once interest rates.
Scary. Near. Emergency. Huge.
Bad thing.
Trouble.
Too big.
Really
Large.
Atrocious.
Egregious. Poor management.
Mismanagement. Big. Over the roof.
Disappointing.
It's a bad thing.
Scary. Scared. Maybe not frightened, but scared. My name's Sequoia Ronaldo. I'm from Maine. I'm a neuroscience major.
Government and economics major. Engineering sciences major.
Neuroscience major.
Government major.
Environmental studies minor.
Economics.
Government and history major. Sociology major.
I mean, it scares me as somebody who's 21 years old in the country right now.
We own our debt. I own our
to
debt.
think about what my livelihood for me and my family is going to be
Passing
like.
the buck down to future generations is downright wrong.
And I'm 20 years older. What kind of taxes that I'm going to have to
Essentially
pay?
stealing from future generations. It's our generation included.
14 trillion beyond incomprehensible.
Fundamentally in America, we think that we can spend without consequence.
I would say all students here at Dartmouth are at least a little bit interested in the national debt.
Topically concerned, probably 90%. Actually concerned, maybe 10%.
I guess 50%, 30%.
80%.
How are we defining concern
Say like
here?
10.
I mean, maybe 30-40%. If you ask them, do they actually think about it on a daily issue? If you don't ask them, maybe less.
10 to 20.
Probably econ people.
5 and 10%.
Whatever percentage is the econ taking.
Legitimate concern would be around 25%.
Ask them, 70 to 80%. The amount that think about it on a daily basis, 0 to 5%.
The one political issue most important to me, job creation.
Economy, budget deficit,
Proper funding for schools, education, immigration.
There's definitely social issues, but I really can't choose.
Probably say gay marriage.
The pro-life movement. I'm like really into like environment, energy, security, healthcare,
Gay rights issues.
human rights.
People could just be, more equal.
The government like extending into every aspect of our lives.
Economic future of our
Lack of
country.
jobs especially affects me graduating college.
That's a necessary thing.
It's not really a good or a bad thing. I guess theoretically it's a bad thing.
I think it's a good thing.
It's a good thing if it's used
It's better
correctly.
to be a creditor than a debtor.
A good thing. Obviously, a very bad thing.
It's definitely a bad thing.
It's obviously a very bad
You
thing.
need to have a debt in order to be a functioning country, but there's a point when it gets to be a bad
The Bible
thing.
says that the debtor is enslaved to whom who holds
We
his
are
debt.
mostly in debt to China. And
China past like 6 months, it's been mostly federal reserve buying.
I've heard we're in debt to China.
Probably China.
By China. No, it's China. China and China.
Other countries, France,
Mostly to ourselves, via the Fed.
China, and
We're basically in debt to everyone. The current debt we have wasn't caused by one president or one, set of senators.
definitely put the blame on both parties.
I wouldn't really put the blame at either party.
If you would have asked me 6 months ago, I probably would have said Republicans.
Definitely the Republicans.
The Republican Party.
The Republican Party. Definitely George Bush.
I don't think it's fair to just name one politician.
George W. Bush. He started 2 wars.
Reaganomics, Bush, Clinton, everyone since 75?
I just recently started paying more attention to everything, and I honestly don't think we can blame either.
I don't think you can pinpoint on one person.
The Democrats.
Democratic Party.
Obama.
I would criticize the Obama administration.
Definitely the liberals.
Going into this election, I was pretty set as a Democrat.
Big government, Obama and his administration, people who support him.
Taking it too far recently.
Policies going into place and what's been happening the past few
I believe
years.
that he has not done some of the adequate steps to remedy it.
I think it's the same no matter who's in power.
Responsible investors in the banking, housing market.
I don't know. Probably somebody at an international economic.
There are few on the Democratic side who I think are willing to
think seriously
Out
about
of control spending on both sides, Republicans and Democrats.
Nobody could be singularly.
there are more Republicans who are serious about doing something about the debt. The number of people on both sides is not where we'd want it to be.
We have a gigantic government.
Too much spending.
Too much government spending.
Think that we shouldn't spend money out.
We've started 2 wars in the last 10 years.
We spend a lot of money on defense.
Defense.
A lot of money on wars.
Uncontrolled spending.
We attempt to be the police force of the entire world.
We one of the highest military budgets in the world.
We should be spending it on like food for impoverished nations.
We probably spend significantly too much on the military.
If you take a look at it, Dartmouth student who's being allowed the opportunity to be at an institution that's free, that has free ideas, where they can think whatever they want, they can go to class with freedom, they can wear whatever they want. Freedom is provided by the defense dollar that's being spent, that you sit and complain about. Freedom that you enjoy every single day is as a result of men and women who go do jobs that require more of them than will ever be required of you, at a level of sacrifice that goes unseen, untold, and ununderstood. Look them in the face and say, what you do isn't worth my tax dollar. Hate the warrior until it's time for war. Why we're important. Why should we have a large standing army? Why should the academy exist to train professional soldiers? When it comes down to it, are you really about what we're about? Our defense is of the utmost importance because it has to do with freedom. Maybe this is trite, maybe you've heard it too many times, but I have classmates who've given their life for this. I don't take this lightly. Freedom is not free. It comes at a high cost. Any dollar spent on defense is a dollar well spent. Value for the dollar. What do I get out of a man or woman who's defending my freedom? What do I get out of Medicaid and Medicare on a daily basis? Out of that defense dollar spent, I get the freedom to go to class, to believe, to have a future, to have a hope, to have optimism. I get to wait until I'm 65 to draw anything off of Medicare, which probably won't be. That's what people don't understand. How thin the veil is between them and their ideology and somebody sticking a gun in their face and telling them to do something they don't want. I was born into a family, Vietnam veteran, a poor single mother. My mom and dad went door to door collecting Coke cans, buy me diapers, rice and beans, with an alcoholic stepdad who was abusive and oppressive. This is not how I'm living. This is not who I will be. Honest look at yourself, whether or not you're taking responsibility for your life. People don't want to look at the raw. They don't want to look at the data, come to an appropriate conclusion. So you stop spending money, a whole bunch of things government wasn't designed to address. We're spending billions of dollars here, and it's not doing me any good. Not now, and not when I'm older.
Defend the United States. That's the federal government's reason for existing. Whereas entitlements are something that the federal government should not be involved in.
First of all, entitlement, Medicare, social programs,
all kinds of programs.
Health and retirement programs.
Health and retirement program.
More of a concern.
The federal government at least just shouldn't be doing
Medicaid.
social spending.
We shouldn't spend as much.
Social Security. It was set up a completely different time and a completely different place for completely different reasons than it's being used now.
Doomed for failure.
Rampant welfare state.
Entitlements en masse. 40% of the federal budget have to be reformed.
Crippling us financially.
We waste a ton of money.
Per dollar. Spending a lot more on them are not going to fix it.
And now all of a sudden you're promising a lot more people who live a lot longer money that you don't have.
You're saying that you can put forth money for something and you can't buy something that's out of your means. It's irresponsible.
It's not constitutional. It doesn't make sense for the federal government to do it. Very economically damaging. There are a whole host of reasons why we shouldn't.
Morally, I'm not opposed to helping people out who need it, but at the same time, I think there comes a certain point where you have to bring practicality.
Entitlements. It really creates perverse incentives.
I don't know how I feel about the idea that the older generation is somehow inherently entitled to the younger generation's money.
We've also been, spending a lot on economic stimulus and borrowing a lot.
We deserve the government we allow. If we're not willing to actively participate, we're just as responsible for having to deal with it when it comes our way as those who created it.
I would say that we're stuck in kind of a Keynesian slump.
I felt that this package honestly didn't work.
Kind of what I was saying earlier, in that less than 25% of college kids care. Less than 25% of college kids are paying taxes.
My generation will, one way or another, make decisions that will directly affect a rapidly aging and needy population, floating unsustainable national debt. More of our young people are voting for the next American Idol rather than their next American legislator. We have a serious problem.
Shame on us. We're the generation.
Let this debt My peers and I must answer the question of how the federal government provides a safety net for the disadvantaged, unable to help themselves, while at the same time encourage entrepreneurship, individual responsibility. Is the American experience truly exceptional? Or are we an imperialist culture characterized by decadence, slothfulness, the impending debt crisis in the United States is abandoning our bedrock principles and instead embracing the comfortable but deceptive ideals of moral relativism, victim identification, outcome equivalence.
We don't have a taxing problem. We double the income tax tomorrow.
Still have debt crisis coming.
We have a spending problem.
As Winston Churchill famously implored, study history lies all the secrets of statecraft. Egyptian, the Macedonian, Romans, and the Persian cultures and political systems change the world. All have passed away. The United States destined to follow the same arc of history. Can the virtues and safeguards envisioned by our founders protect us from inevitable decay? decline. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. For defense spending 5% of the GDP. Next year, health and retirement programs 68 cents of every dollar received in taxes. There are common characteristics that have enabled wealthy nations to flourish. Uncontrollable government spending and an unsustainable national debt are not among 2011 budget spending, taxing, accumulation. The federal government has an addiction to spending money we do not have. But it is our duty as defenders of freedom, constitutional republic, to advocate a government of less federal spending to avoid a certain doomsday. Every generation has their battle. Exposing obese federal spending as the fickle beast that it is, the fight for freedom has begun. What are you doing about it?